Good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon, Ben.
How you doing?
All right, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, a little bit tired, a little bit, well,
A little bit this, a little bit that.
a little bit of this, a little bit. I mean, it's a shit show. It's a shit show. We just have to call it as we see it. It's either all going very wrong or it's all going very right, depending on your perspective, I guess, in this country.
I really don't know where to start. I mean, it's just a mess.
I mean, the only thing we can do at this point, and I don't know who is going to agree with me on this, but in my view, the only thing we can do is laugh at it as it all goes down, it all goes up in flames.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of chat on Twitter this morning about what's going on, and people seem to forget. You know, we covered this 5 days ago.
Yeah.
6 days ago.
We predicted this, if you will.
Yeah, we did.
We're pretty good at that, though.
Yeah, we're not often right, but we were right again.
What do you mean we're not often right? We're always
We're
bloody
never
right.
wrong. We're hardly ever wrong.
People should actually come and join us on this show and listen, because we can tell you the future. It would appear.
Yeah, it would appear so.
That future's not set in stone. We'll get into it a bit during the show, but Mr. Johnson could be stiffed, if you will, and he may well be yet. But anyway, John, as
Ben,
I cue up the intro, you introduce the show.
I'd like to welcome you one and all to this Chasing Dissent Live, episode 146.
Well, it's been another day, and another round of news has filled our slideshow, hasn't it, John? Well, so it would appear, and with the way that we transfer information these days with social media and the like, we can get this news on tap at the click of a button, and we can bring it to you, and we can mock it. So, John, take us straight in, my friend. We're looking at the doors to number 10.
See a tremendous amount of people backing Sunak, right?
Yeah.
MPs particularly. It's mainly MPs backing Sunak, right?
Yeah.
And they're backing Sunak, and they're saying he's the only man that can take us out of this. He's the only man that can do this. He's got the wherewithal. He's got the economic ability. Who put us here? Remember, who actually put us in the economic situation that we're currently in?
The man who created and signed the furlough scheme, John.
Yeah. And what was his name?
It was
what was his name?
I think it was Richland Sunak.
Yeah. So why do these people willfully misremember what happened?
Well, because you say you say willfully misremembered, but you have to then come from the opinion that this wasn't done on purpose. And the more and more that I think about it, the more and more I look back on it, the more we look at whatever's coming out from medical side of things, evidence and the like, we're going to conclude. It's going to take a while. It's going to take the country a long time to come to terms with it, but we're going to conclude that this was a purposeful transfer of wealth. That's what this was, and that's what this continues to be at this point. Now,
yeah.
So to say willfully misremembering is to say that they weren't in on it.
Right. Okay. But right. What's the game then of this government? What is the game? What is their expected or preferred outcome from this latest shit show?
Well, the preferred outcome of not just this government, but whoever is puppeteering them is to create essentially a slave class, and they're getting it. They're getting it. People that are dependent on the government tea, then
Well, right. So I have to disagree with you here because
okay.
if anything, what the last 4 weeks has shown us is that the government is basically completely incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They have no idea what they're doing. That they are really chickens running about a chicken roost while the fox is in there chasing about. They don't know what's happening. They don't have a clue, and they're just lashing out and pecking out at anything that moves, right? So I do not think this is engineered by, for whoever it is, whatever you say, the WEF or whatever. I think they try and exert influence, right, to further their ends. But I think the government's just completely lost the plot. They have no idea what they're doing. That's the problem.
You see, I can understand where you're coming from. I really can. But the evidence speaks for itself, and it seems to be exclusively on westernized nations.
But what evidence speaks for itself?
They've crashed all of our economies, and systematically and in lockstep, John.
Yeah, well, yeah, they have.
And once again, when you look
back, who does that, and what does it? How does it benefit them?
Well, it's a transfer. It's a wealth transfer.
No. Oh, hold on a minute. There's a difference between transferring wealth and there's a difference between crashing economies.
Well, no, there's not.
Yeah. Well, how can you have wealth if there's no economy for you to buy anything?
Because when you transfer wealth up, right, you crash the economy, because what it does is it goes into the pockets of a very, very tiny amount, and it stays there.
Yeah, okay, so
and that's why
where's the benefit?
Well, the benefit is to the people who are in that very, very tiny amount, who now have everything.
Right, no, it doesn't. How does that benefit them? Well, because they don't have anything. Because they've crashed the economy, everything's going to shit, and they're just as likely to be burnt by an angry mob as anyone else. In fact, maybe one would say they're more likely to be burnt by an angry mob. Who's reaping the benefit here? Because it's not the people at the top, it's not the people at the bottom, and it's certainly not the people in the middle. Who's reaping benefit?
I think we're definitely going to have to agree to disagree here.
But,
I really do.
Right, so if you are driving everything to the top, right, then what, as someone who's at the top, you know, an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos, what are you going to do? How are you going to spend your money? Well, you can't go to a restaurant because there won't be any left. You can't go for a walk in the park because someone will have you, right? You can't drive your car because somebody will rape you and steal your car. So who's going to benefit?
Well, yeah, no, I do see where you're coming from, but I think it's a bit simple because you can own the park and nobody can come in the park. You can.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Who's going to work in your park? So you're going to start paying an underclass of people to work in the park, so you're going to rebuild the economy on your terms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This isn't going to work. There's too many people in the world.
Did I say it was going to work? Did I say that?
Right. So I ask again. Either everyone's stupid, right?
That's definitely an option.
Either everyone is completely and utterly stupid and hasn't thought anything at all of what they're doing, right? Or the government is completely incompetent and is generally incompetent in every nation in the world.
See, you know what? I think it's a big mixture of both.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think it's a big mixture of stupidity and incompetence, but I genuinely believe that when you look at XVY, you cannot get 2 and 2 make 4 when it comes to saying that they did this for a health reason. They did this to crash the economy. They did this for digital IDs. They did this for central bank digital currency. They did this for control of the plebs. It's always the next scare story to control the plebs. The coof, the climate, all of this is to keep you in check, keep you in line.
Okay, we know that, right? And we accept that. That's fine, okay? But let's focus on what's happening in the UK right now, okay?
Well, we don't really know what's happening in the UK right now. Nobody does.
We know that there's a shit show, right? Yeah. So who's benefiting from this shit show that's occurring in government at the moment? Who's benefiting here? Because it's not the Tory party, right?
Well, definitely not.
It's unlikely to be the Labour Party, right? Because nobody's going to call an election, right?
No, you're
so it's
right
not
there.
the public, it's not the MPs, it's not the government. It's not that. Well, are the media benefiting? Maybe because they're getting some stories out it. It's not any of the other parties because they're not gonna call an election. So, where's the benefit to this?
See, this is.
But I can't find a benefit.
Do you know
I can't
what?
find an upside.
You know what? Just because I tell you I know why, in my opinion, things are being done does not mean I know every answer, and it does not know. And I'm quite happy to admit that,
No,
right?
I'm not even looking for answers, right? I'm looking for a reason for what's occurring right now. So it seems to me that what has occurred right now has just been a series of knee-jerk reactions
Yeah.
in response to general public outcry. Okay.
Well, media outcry.
Yeah, well, media outcry, which is purported to represent the public, it doesn't really. We know that.
Yeah.
But so it's been a series of knee-jerk reactions from an incompetent government that's panicked and done stupid things, right?
Right.
Now, I don't think this is part of anybody's long-term plan. I think they've really dug themselves a big hole here, and they're now scrabbling to get out of it before the water from all the rain that we have all the time fills it up and drowns them.
Right? You could well be right. You could well be right.
So the problem they have is how are they going to get out of this mess? And they can't. They really can't get out of this mess because they can do two things here at the moment, and two things are likely. They're either going to re-elect Johnson, right? Which in some terms makes it easier for them because one, generally he's liked by the public, and both sides of the public like him, those who like to hate him and those who like him for the genial buffoon that he purports to be, right? So he has a good image from that point of view, and the people that don't like him, they get to continue hating him and mocking him and everything, and that works quite well for them. The party was elected on his mandate, right?
On his manifesto.
His manifesto, so then he can say, well, we'll just continue on. There's no need for an election because we're working to the manifesto that I put in place, and I'm back at the reins. Okay.
Yep.
So that's option one. Option two is you put in Rishi Sunak, who was Johnson's chancellor, right? Who did make the mistakes of furlough and stuff like that. Who is completely divorced from reality. And now I know Johnson is, but Sunak just doesn't have any conception that people could possibly be struggling to find money. I mean, how could people be poor?
No, right?
He is Marie Antoinette of modern days. You know, he would quite gladly turn around and let them eat white artichokes. But anyway, and truffles. But yeah, so you put him in, who the MPs might like the idea of him.
Yeah.
But no one else does.
Well, no, he's.
So you guarantee a Labour victory.
Yeah, so Rishi
Comes
Sunak
to the
is
next election.
Rishi Sunak is unelectable, and at this point Boris Johnson may well be unelectable, right? And that
He may be, but he's still their best shot.
And do you know what? I foresee one of two circumstances happening myself. The first one being that they just go, screw it, bring him back, yeah? And the second one is this, that he gets the support, but he gets screwed over anyway. Because I'm seeing reports that he's possibly already passed the 100 MP threshold. Can't confirm that, but he's screwed over anyway, and he is he is usurped.
You and I have differed on the Boris thing, and my view is that he would pass the 100 MP threshold thing, and I think he will. I think he'll run.
Do you know the hilarious?
He may turn around and say no, I'm not, but he's coming back early from his holiday.
I believe he's back in the UK now.
Yeah, so he's gonna run.
Yeah, and if they do usurp him and he gets the support and Rishi Sunak is installed as the Prime Minister, now if he wants to be a thorn in the side and destroy the Conservative Party and actually shake up politics for the good and create an alternative, I think that it is within the power and the purview of both Boris Johnson and, people are going to disagree with me here, but I think it's true, Nigel Farage, to come together and make a wave. I do.
Nigel Farage is nothing but a good orator.
Yeah, but he is a good orator, and his oration with Boris Johnson's popularity, I think, is going to create a shitstorm if they do it.
I think you're reaching me. I really do. I can't see it work, right? I can't see it happen. I think that's a big reach. No, I really do. And I thank you for providing that moment of levity.
Do you know what? It would be a moment of levity. It would be something that we would have freaking months of material based upon, because it would be the funniest shit show in politics. It really would. It would be hilarious. And do you know what? As I said earlier on, what we've got to do now is find ways to just laugh at it all coming down around us, because this two-party system where you get choice of purple Labour or purple Tories, it's not going to work anymore. We need something new.
We've said that, and I you know my advocacy for this, and I don't believe that
we've removed ourselves from the voter roll.
There's no way you can move forward on this.
Do you know what? We had a representative from the council on the doorstep today saying, with a warning, you need to put yourself back on the voter roll. I just went, no, thank you. Boom. I'm politically homeless. I don't want to vote for any of these arseholes anymore. What are they gonna do for you? What are they gonna do for me? Nothing. It's just got to treat it like it is now, as a massive joke. And with that
is a joke.
Let's move on to a tweet from Chris Bryant. What have we got here, John?
That's right. So this is the tweet that Chris Bryant, the first one in the Division lobby. And whenever I hear that, I always think of Pink Floyd's The Division Bell. But this was the no lobby and the crowd that was around it, and there was apparently a lot of pushing and poking and beguiling of people. This was during the vote that wasn't meant to be a vote of confidence, but turned out was a vote of confidence. And this is the one that triggered the things that saying, some Tory MPs went to bed crying. But this Chris Bryant broke the etiquette of the Houses of Parliament by publishing that, and he was asked to remove it by the Sergeant at Arms. But you know what? Once you put something up on the internet, it's never going away, is it? Because here it is, it's still here.
Yeah, and obviously allegations were made, like you said, of pushing, shoveling, jostling. In fact, apparently they dragged people through certain doors of the lobby.
Yeah.
And basically forced them to vote against their will.
Yeah.
I've heard tale of the man in our next slide, actually, Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Before we go to the next slide, though, so Chris Bryant at this point said, so far I've been told to resign by, this is the day after, by 50 or so anonymous accounts today. Good try, but I'm not going to stop exposing bullying and intimidation when I see it. Right, okay. Where does this guy get any time to do anything? I mean, we spend a fair bit of time on Twitter and things like that because we're gathering news, but this guy's on it all the time.
They all seem to be.
So are they all sitting there on the? Are they allowed to?
Belladonna makes a very good point here in the chat. Chris Bryant was among the people. He wants to talk about bullying and intimidation. Yeah. He's one of the people that got Majid Nawaz sacked from LBC for speaking out against the mandates.
They're all bullies.
Of course they are.
Bullies. Speaking of bullies,
we go to our next Jacob Rees-Mogg.
He's back at Jacob Rees-Mogg is a bit of a troll, though, isn't he? Really
I mean, he does the Mogcast, doesn't he? He has been a bit of a troll for quite some time. He basically knows what he is, and he knows how people take the piss out of him, and he leans very heavily into it.
Yeah, he works it well.
But yeah, he's backing Boris. He's actually the first MP to officially back Boris.
Yeah.
The ones we've seen so far are basically on a list from Guido Fawkes, of all people. But Jacob Rees-Mogg has actually come out publicly on Twitter with this, I'm backing Boris. Jacob Rees-Mogg MP, North East Somerset, hashtag Boris or Bust, which is the name of the show today, John.
Yeah, it does indeed. And speaking of Boris, I mean, events overtake us quite quickly, don't they? Because 1 minute, Boris is posting holiday snaps from the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
And next minute, you know, he's back in Blighty. He's come back.
And he's at the top of the poll right now.
Yeah.
Well, Boris hasn't officially said he will stand. No, not at this point, but he has got on a plane and come home early.
Yeah, so that kind of says he's going to stand. And
yeah.
Carrie wants to see if her wallpaper's still there.
Yeah, Carrie wants back in, doesn't she? She wants back in number 10.
It's like we took our holiday. She wants to be able to say we just took our furniture on holiday for a few weeks.
So from Johnson to his, I guess his enabler, not his opponent, his enabler, Mr. Keith Starmer.
Doesn't that picture just fill you with loathing? I mean, that's probably one of the worst adverts I've ever seen for Join the Labour Party. I mean, what's with the red tint? It's like, in fact, you wonder if Adam actually made that for them, because it's like that red tint we used to put on our thumbnails.
Yeah, it is, yeah. That would, if he really was a subverter working for the Labour Party, that would explain some of the adverts he's been making for us that we won't let him release lately.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
I mean, those No,
don't even go there. So yeah, a fairer, greener future. See, when you see the word greener in anything, you just know it's going to cost you money.
Yeah,
and inconvenience.
That's what we need to point out. We need to call out. I don't want a green agenda. If you want to give me a green agenda, give me irrefutable evidence that what you're telling me about the environment is true. Now, all you've ever done is give me models that are wrong. How often, John?
100% of the time.
Is that 100 with a small one?
100% of the time. They're wrong all the time. They've never been right. Never.
Yeah, and I got my wife to say something quite funny to the Just Stop Oil people earlier on, actually, because they're in the road again in London. They're in the road again right now. And my wife turned around to them on Twitter and she typed, "You're all going to go to prison for believing in nonsense. How does that sit with you?"
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. I mean, these people are so invested. It's a cult. It's an absolute cult. But then the cultists sit within our offices of government.
But everything's a cult. I mean, what's the definition of a cult? Is believing something that you cannot be demonstrated to know as truth is true, which is the same for religion. I mean, the definition of cult and religion is the same thing, and even more so these days, the definition of cult, religion, and science appears to be the same thing. So everything ultimately seems to be a cult.
Haven't done this in a while because we're talking about cults and science and stuff. John, let us pray.
Shut up already. It's science.
Anyway, let's move on to Krishnan Guru Murphy of Channel 4 News fame.
Right, so this guy's just right. I can understand if he'd called Jeremy Hunt.
Yeah.
A thingy, but how can he call Steve Baker?
I would call that Steve Baker.
Sorry?
I don't like Steve Baker, so I can understand it.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you don't do it deliberately on TV, do you? I mean,
he didn't do it deliberately on TV.
Well,
He was caught on a hot mic, so he thought he was off air, and he said something along the lines of like he's a bit of a inney, and he was caught on a hot mic saying it. And
okay, well, he wasn't wrong. So somebody leaked it then.
Yeah. So to be honest to you, I see no lie in Krishnan's statement. Now,
No,
I
no, I
know
don't either.
I know that they're held to a quote unquote higher standard, right? They can't say these things on the TV, so that's why people come to people like us who will say the occasional fuck. But it's
quite pathetic.
it is
So
quite pathetic.
He's been a bad boy, and he will spend a week off work.
On full pay, I would imagine.
Oh, but of course, he's just spend a week off while people forget about it, and then he'll come back and start digging it up again.
Start going, I'm Christian and Guru. Didn't he really piss off Robert Downey Jr.? Didn't Robert Downey Jr. storm out of an interview with Christian and Guru?
Right, he's pissed off quite a few folk, but he has a bit of a knob as well, though.
Yeah, I mean, they all are. I mean, let's face it, so are we. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
You kind of have to be to do this. You kind of have to be able to comment on this stuff. And you have to be a bit hardened, because the amount of information that people like us consume on a daily basis could snap you, could make you break, could make you cry. And it is spooky season, so you might see a mental breakdown at some point in the next. He looks like he's going to press a button. You going to press a button?
I might press the button.
Go on, press a button. I mean, that goes on for quite some time. I will say that.
That's sustained.
So, let's move on to Dagny Taggart and Baron Taiga.
I think the Biden administration are starting to panic, because I think they realise that they are not going to do very well in the midterms. And speaking of midterms, how do you fancy spending the night with me and Ben?
A whole night.
Yeah.
In our company.
Unfettered.
In our
unbridled.
rooms. And in our rooms, if you will.
Unbridled. I
might even at some point lose the will to live and have a mental breakdown and rip my shirt off.
We probably will. I don't know about ripping off shirts, but we probably will lose the will to live.
So I've just seen a comment in the chat. I wanna give a bit of appreciation to when we move on. Robin here says you guys do the hard work, so we don't have to.
Indeed we do.
Well, thank you for recognising that. So what have we got here anyway? What they of course they are. And I mean, before we even look at these tweets, I can give you an example. They're once again looking into how they can basically stop the Department of Justice. They're going to try and stop Elon Musk buying Twitter, because they know it's over if he gets it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty much over for them anyway, unless they manage to really do a number on the vote counting. But I think there's just no way that these guys can be expected to do well out of the midterms. So we'll see what happens.
We will indeed. So what have we got in here? So this tweet here says, in anticipation that a lot of people are likely to lose their seats, the US Congress is looking at a front-loaded $50 billion package to Ukraine before the midterm winners are seated.
It's just like, just throw them more money at Ukraine, because we'll prop them up. Because if we don't send them enough money, the proxy war will finish, and we won't be able to send them any more money because Russia will be in charge.
Yeah,
so,
and I don't think that the Republicans want to do this.
Yeah, the Republicans will kill it, and then they'll go, oh well, we don't want a proxy war with Russia, and Russia will get their bit that they wanted, and then everything will go back to normal, and people will go, oh, it was the Russian annexation of 2022, and that'll just go down in the history books, and that'll be it, finished. But if they get enough money in there, and they slide a few nukes over, then they can maybe start World War III and wipe us all out before the Republicans get in power. Because if you're a Democrat, you'd rather see your country a rotting nuclear wasteland than have a Republican in power, wouldn't you?
Well said. And that's what it appears to be. And I mean, you just look at all of the Democrat-controlled and Democrat-run cities. They are disrepaired. They're falling to shit. Crime rates are massively high. Right? It's not a stereotype. It's for the most part true. And these people want to run the country. And when they do run the country, as they got the presidency and you know they got the House, gas prices are through the roof. Jobs are through the floor. Border jumpers are just all over the place.
I made a little short earlier today that
You
I
did?
stole off something, and it's Peter Ducey, and wow, I mean, he just nails it, doesn't he?
He does,
You
yeah.
know?
Why?
Yeah.
You know, he asked the question to the press secretary. Why would the oil and gas companies do what you want them to do, considering you're trying to destroy their businesses? And she goes, I don't know how we're supposed to be trying
No,
to
she
destroy...
goes, I don't know why you think we're trying to destroy their businesses.
And what does he say?
He says, well, they produce fossil fuels, and Joe Biden says he wants to end fossil fuels.
Exactly right. Exactly right. That is a proper mic drop moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
If ever there was one. Now, speaking of arsehole tech companies, Google are being sued by the state of Texas. Why are they being sued by the state of Texas?
Well, because Google, being Google, just loves to collect data. I mean, remember, Germany's already had at them, and the European Union have had at them.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're talking major fines. It was billions, wasn't it?
It was,
the European Union one. So Texas are obviously thinking, oh, we could do with some money, so let's just have a go at Google, because they do invasively collect data and information.
I mean,
and they all do it. I mean,
is
it's
the
not
same
just
state.
Google.
This is the same state that are currently criminally prosecuting Netflix over that Cuties movie.
Yes.
So
speaking of Netflix, apparently there's a good movie out, a new one out that's actually worth a watch called, what's it called, American? Was it called American Girl, or was it called something else? Oh no, it's called Vatican Girl or something like that.
Oh.
Yes, it's someone who disappeared in 1981 or round about that. And it's the guy. Do you remember the cats thing? Don't fuck with cats.
No, can't say I do.
Well, you do. You remember that whole documentary series that Netflix did about the don't fuck with cats on the internet?
Yes.
And then the guy committed suicide and all that because...
Yeah.
Right? So that director is the one who's done this.
Okay, so
Right.
no, you're right. Could be
thank
interesting. Oh, look, he's just been delivered a coffee. Oh, I'm once again going to go to the chat because we are getting some love here from Robin today. He says, since BNT went down, you guys are my main sanity check. Oh, thank you. You know what? I really appreciate that. I really do.
See that little thing in the bottom right? If you click that, you could show appreciation.
I mean,
if you so desire, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you could, and if you want to put a personal message in there, it will play during the show. If you do it during the show.
Out. Yeah, it'll get read out in a computerized voice.
Soram says BNT is back up, but think he's been compromised. Make a new account. No, we've got an account there, but I don't know if we can upload yet. So we'll have to check it out.
BNT's not looking terribly stable
at the moment,
and hasn't for quite some time.
I still really, I believe in the platform and what they're trying to do. I just think that there are a lot of bad actors trying to stop what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of it seems to be they just want to pull down Sonia.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And Sonia's someone I think we consider a friend at this point,
Yeah.
and a thoroughly decent broadcaster as far as I'm concerned. Speaking of questionable broadcasters, let's move on to James Wells.
Must we?
Well, I say questionable broadcasters because anybody associated with Kerry Murray in the UFP is, in my view, a questionable broadcaster at this point.
Right. So, this parliamentary group met to look at damage by the treats, and they met yesterday.
They did.
And there wasn't a lot of attendance from the parliamentary side of things. I think you said five MPs. You know, I mean, so that's not really paying a lot of attention to it.
Well, there could be two reasons for this, and let me play devil's advocate for a minute. Let me give some MPs an excuse. Right? They've done it on yesterday as the government is on fire and MPs have other things to think about.
Yeah.
That's all I'm thinking, but then at the same time, that's no excuse for Labour MPs to have not come along. There's no excuse for the two Lib Dem MPs to have not come along, or the SNP MPs.
Yeah.
They are not. So like Teresa Coffey. Well, I don't know if Teresa Coffey was there, but Dr. Asim Mahatra was there. others were there, and they were giving their evidence on what they claimed to be evidence on the damage. And like you say, nobody turned up, and that is very concerning because they should at least hear them out, whether or not they're true. They should hear them out.
I'm 100% behind you, mate. 100% behind you. And the thing is, and I'm 100% behind anyone who wants to try and bring anything, right, to the notification of those that are supposed to represent us. And this is the problem with the current system, because these people who are supposed to represent us, they're supposed to be looking out for us, they're supposed to be watching over us and helping us out and making sure that their little group of people that elected them are seen to be properly represented in government and get the proper attention and get what they are supposed to get.
Preach!
Don't give a toss about you.
Preach!
You really don't.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And we've been trying to say this, and it's not just your current elected official. It's anyone who wishes to be your elected official, because they are not doing it for you. Now, they'll say they are because they want your vote. Why do they want your vote? They want your cushy salary, that second home, that government job, and those expenses. That is all they want. They don't care about you. And do you know, I saw somebody, and I had to get my wife to respond to this on Twitter yesterday, who responded to Boris Johnson possibly coming back into power. She said something along the lines of, it was the Ukraine thing. You know, the Ukraine, I don't know if it's in the list, but the Ukraine post.
There is stuff in the list about Ukraine.
But
there is a post about them, yeah.
But I will briefly touch on the response that this woman turned around and said. She said, you know, we know he supported you, Ukraine, but we don't want a corrupt politician like Boris Johnson coming back into power, thank you. And I got my wife to turn around and say, do you not think that's every single bloody one of them? Yeah. How have you not learned this yet? Jesus Christ! It doesn't matter what country you're in. It's every single bloody one of them.
And this is why I keep saying anyone who actively seeks power shouldn't be allowed to hold it. Because
absolutely.
The problem is, once you get in there, no matter how good your intentions are, and no matter how good your integrity is, your self-esteem, anything, you're going to get corrupted. You're going to get corrupted, and you're going to go down the wrong path. It might take 6 months for some, and it might take 6 years or even 16 years for others. But you get in there and you get in that club, you're going to get corrupted.
Yeah, you know, it's not just in that situation. There's circles and clubs that corrupt all over the place, right? In all walks of life. And it's even in what we're doing, right? We see some people, there's a big club, we ain't in it, and therefore, you know, we don't get propped up like some others do, because these people that have got influence and things like that, they join their little WhatsApp groups, they prop each other up, and this is what goes on. We don't want to be any part of that. In fact, we brushed with that when we helped create, I'd say helped create, when we did create the UFP. And
yeah, I know.
And
I mean, there's whole other things. I mean, even things like YouTube, the same thing happens, because you get people like KSI, and I'm going to bang on about this again.
He's an arsehole.
He's an arsehole, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he mocks people openly like what we do, but then he picks on small YouTube channels and puts copyright strikes against them that he cannot win. And he knows he cannot win because it is fair use and there's no reason for a copyright strike to be against it. But he puts it there for 30 days because that's how long it sits there, and your content can't be put up, or it doesn't count to anything for 30 days.
And you know what?
And that's the kind of arsehole he is.
Then that content we made was gold. It was bloody gold.
It was. And the part that he struck us for was like less than 30 seconds out of a 1.5 hour show.
Yeah, less than 30 seconds. But everywhere you look, there's a big club and you ain't in it until you are in it. And then when you are in it, you like what you see and it corrupts you. And we didn't like what we were seeing when we did this before, and we saw the corruption happen in real time, didn't we, John? We watched it happen in real time.
We did. I mean, I'll be honest, I had misgivings, and I did continually expound those misgivings.
You did.
I did say that it wasn't meant to be a news gathering organisation. It was supposed to be an accreditation organisation, and
Yep.
and I was very firmly trying to keep people who had activist views away from running it.
Well, unfortunately, the person at the top has severe activist views and decided to arbitrarily bully and attack me. So,
So anyway,
let's move on.
move on and finish off this one about the panel, right?
So-
Because Alex here, I think, has got the wrong end of the stick here. Because yes, the MSN do tend to rubbish things on occasion, and they did saying that no one turned up, but what the MSN picture is showing is that no one from the government or the MPs that should have turned up, i.e. you had your 5 MPs and some other lackeys, right? Yes, we're sure the audience was packed, but they
came with you.
Yeah, they did. They are us, right?
Yeah.
But the people that can make a difference and could change things, they didn't even bother coming.
No, you're right. You're right. And this just boils into what we've just been having blind rants about clubs. You're not in it. And if you're not in it, they're not going to help you. They're not going to do anything for you. And, you've got to... I've said it yesterday. I think we're going to clip it and put it out as some kind of inspirational short, maybe. But you've got to take your life into your own hands. The only person that can matter to you in the short term, in the immediate future, is you or your loved ones and your children. You've got to do what you need to do for you. Don't rely on these people because they're not going to help you. They're not going to help you. Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's go to Spain. Okay,
and to our friend David Nolan.
Yeah, David Nolan's put this up, and Spain have done it. They've finally done it.
Good.
They've finally dropped any border measures, right, with regard to medical treatment. Okay, so they've finally done this.
Yeah.
As have New Zealand. They've done it as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's them finally dropped everything, right?
Yep. But the United States haven't.
The United States haven't yet, but we think the 8th, the same day as the midterms is when they're going to drop it. But
I tell you what, if we could raise the money, I would fly in that day.
Yeah, so would I. But moving on, Spain's done this, right? Okay, and if you look at the next slide,
yep,
you have to say why. Why has Spain done this?
I don't know. Why has Spain done
So the
this?
next slide shows us excess deaths.
We're just creeping.
And it's slowly starting to creep up again because it's coming to winter. But there's 2 countries there that are 3 or 4 countries that are well ahead of the rest.
One of them being
being Germany, right? What? One of them being Germany, which has been there all summer, right? And the other one being Spain.
Well, I'll tell you why they've done this, John.
Why?
Because economically they're screwed. And I mean, it's still kind of warm there at this time of year, and they need the Brits. They need us to fly in and give them money.
See that bit next to them that has no excess?
Yep.
That bit called Portugal?
Yep.
Has had no restrictions this year, has it?
Not that I know of. Not that I'm aware of, no.
Well, at least since April, I think. It's had nothing, and yet it's not showing any excess.
No.
Yeah. So tell me, Spain, Germany, Netherlands, what exactly have these restrictions achieved?
Well,
I'll wait. I'll wait.
I'm not going to answer that question for them. We will wait for a comeback. The governments of Spain, governments of Germany, we're open to having conversations with anybody. What has it done for you? Let us know. Now, moving on to this is an interesting story.
So this guy in North Las Vegas goes on a rampage, running about a park with a gun and a Michael Myers mask on, threatening to shoot people. And eventually comes across the cops, and the cops shoot him, which is fair enough.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah. Although, there's video, I'm not showing the video, but there's video and there's the cop confronting them and telling them not to reach for the gun or not to reach out with the gun and all this. And then the cop unleashes 8 rounds at this guy. Now, I don't know what kind of police training they are giving armed officers in the States, but he's in a park, right? The first priority as a cop is to protect life.
Yes.
In this situation, right? Now, to protect life in this situation, you have to take down the bad guy. That's fine.
Yeah.
His life is not your priority. Stopping him is your priority. Whether he lives or dies cannot enter your mind at that point in time, because you must stop him. So to stop him effectively, you're going to do the first thing that you're taught is hit him in the center of mass. Right?
Yes.
So you're aiming at the middle of his chest, his thoracic area. Because you do not want to miss, because if you miss,
you could hit other people.
That bullet could go for another mile, especially if you're in a flat park.
Yeah.
So where's that bullet going, and who's it going to kill?
Unleashing 8 is a bit extreme, isn't it?
So how can the guy let loose 8 rounds?
I honestly couldn't tell you, and hopefully the thing gets investigated. Probably not as a murder, because if it was to protect life at that point, then rightfully so.
I'm not saying the cop did anything intrinsically wrong in shooting the guy. But why was he shooting him 8 times? Or if he didn't shoot him 8 times, where did those other bullets go? Because that's like reckless endangerment. I mean, it's like, I mean, was he aiming or just spraying?
And I mean,
that's the thing.
Let's put this into perspective for people that may not know. John, you are an ex-firearms officer, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So you know this training, at least in this country, and
there is no way we would ever let 8 rounds go at a guy with a single man with a gun. There is no way we would have got away with that. Seemed to get away with it in the Met. Do you remember when they made a salad out of Waldorf?
Yep.
Who wasn't Waldorf? It was some. Oh no, it was Waldorf. They were looking for someone else, and they shot the poor guy in the mini and peppered them with bullets, and he survived. I don't know how he managed, but he did survive. He was shot multiple times.
I mean, I'll give you an interesting story of survival, actually. Shoreham Air Show a few years back. A car came down on. A jet plane came down on the A27. Killed, I think, 12 people. And the pilot survived. The pilot survived, but the pilot wasn't supposed to be there. It was the wrong pilot flying the plane, and there was a massive prosecution. But the thing is, the plane was absolutely totaled, and the pilot got out of it alive. 12 people didn't, but he did. Insane. Yeah. But yeah. People survive some pretty insane things, and I wonder how many will survive in Iran. Looking at this, so Iran protests. Democracies have moral obligation to help. Canada Foreign Minister says.
I couldn't avoid it. I mean, the irony is strong in Canada, is it not? I mean...
This is the government that used the Emergencies Act, seized people's bank accounts, arrested them verbatim simply for wanting to live normally.
Yeah. This is the people that froze them out of their cabs because they wouldn't let them buy diesel or refuel their vehicles in minus 40-degree temperatures. Yep. This is that country that have a moral obligation to help foreigners.
No, they don't. They have. I think that the Canadian government have a moral obligation to resign. That's what I think they have a moral obligation to do. However, going back to my statements of earlier, they don't care about you.
They don't.
They really don't. And they don't care about foreigners. What they care about is optics. Optics.
We look good, don't we?
Say it with me, John. Optics.
And speaking of optics... These guys in this Volkswagen showroom. I don't know if you've been following this, but
I haven't.
So activists invaded a Porsche showroom.
Yeah, I'm aware that they did.
Right, so they invaded a Porsche showroom in Germany, glued themselves to the floor, and then thought, hold on a minute, how are we going to go to the toilet? And they said, could you bring us a bowl and things like that so we can go to the toilet? No.
No.
9.
You broke into our showroom. You glued yourself to our shite. No.
Then the people that owned the showroom turned the lights off, switched off the heat and locked the doors and went home.
Good.
And then these guys are going, we can't even get any food because our supporters who went out to get food can't get back in because they're locked indoors.
So this tweet here from Latimer Alder, if you haven't followed the story so far, pretend scientists, actually activists, glued themselves to a VW showroom, complained when VW turned off the heat, hadn't prepared for toilets, needs, now chief conspirator is ducking out with a poorly hand. Comedy gold.
The guy that started it has said, the doctors have, he obviously needs a toilet, right? I mean, between the lines. And he said, doctors have ascertained the possibility of life-threatening blood clots in my hand. I'd recommend, he's probably had his treats, mind you.
I will say, yeah.
I recommended an immediate transfer to a hospital. My health is, of course, paramount. I accepted to leave this wonderful group and was taken to a hospital, continuing my hunger strike.
Oh, so is he going to starve to death as well?
His hunger strike was forced upon him because his supporters couldn't come back in with food, remember?
You know what? Hold on. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that?
Yeah, VW, yeah.
Volkswagen.
It's actually a Porsche showroom. I know it's a Volkswagen Audi group, but
Yeah.
it's a Porsche showroom.
But
Anyway,
still, I salute you.
so
I
moving on.
salute you. And how long do you think they're going to last anyway?
I have no idea.
Sure, we'll keep up. If they're still there on Monday, we'll be back.
Yeah,
Well, actually, I think we should go in a bit more on them tonight. So I will interrupt just for a minute. We will be back here at 9 p.m. for Chasing Dissent All In, won't we? The Friday night uncensored, unfettered, and unlisted show.
Yeah, just off the wall.
Off the wall. And you can get more heavily involved in that one as well. So please do come and join us. Anyway, shall we move on to I'm Terrified, John?
No, don't be terrified. It's just a picture of Rod Stewart. so Rod's that.
Hold on.
Rod Stewart, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
it's not the plumber guy, is it?
Just push the goat scream button.
The goats. The goat scream. I wasn't ready for the goat scream.
That's what we need. That's the sound. There we go.
so Rod Stewart, ever the one to virtual signal whenever we possibly can.
Yep.
Has rented a house and given it to a family of 7 Ukrainians.
Oh, has
because
he?
he's such a good guy.
Ah, okay.
Twat.
Okay. Sauron says in the chat, isn't that Ulrika?
I don't know. I haven't seen Ulrika recently.
Remember her? John Fashanu. Ulrika, ka.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could well be the plumber guy.
It could be. Anyway, moving on, because we've only got 3 left and we need to rip through this because we're just about out of time.
Yeah. Spotify crashes as Taylor Swift's hotly anticipated Midnight's album launches.
Yeah, there's no doubt that she brought it down because as soon as it launched, boom, Spotify went down across the world. And people were phoning up saying their internet's not working. And they said, have you checked it's not just Spotify? And lo and behold, it was Spotify that was down.
So this young woman is, is she hotly talented? I was actually speaking to a group of people the other day, right? Because I don't listen to her music at all.
I don't know.
And I was speaking.
The only time I've seen her is in that Kanye West video, Famous.
But anyway, I was speaking to a group of old friends, and we were talking about music, and they were talking about this coming out. And someone said to me, "Oh, Tay Tay's new album's coming out," and I responded, "What the fuck is a Tay Tay?" Right? I said, "What the fuck is a Tay Tay?"
Why is she called Tay Tay?
I have no idea, but do you know what? They called me old. They called me fucking old because I didn't know what this was.
Welcome to my world.
Welcome to my world. Won't you come on in?
Oh.
But anyway, good luck to her. You know?
Good luck, Tay Tay.
I just thought, are we having jacket potato for dinner? Tay Tay? What's going on here?
I know.
Potatoes, you boil them, you mash them, you stick them in a stew. Let's move on.
Yeah, so let's move on. So really, you know it's bad when the most corrupt country in Europe that's already embezzled billions of dollars from the West
and billions of British pounds, yeah,
is trolling your government.
And I was actually going to say something here, because isn't this interfering with a foreign election?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, isn't this?
Well, it's not a. It's not really an election,
well,
though, is it?
they are being elected from within the MPs.
Yeah.
But it's interfering with our government. It's them saying we prefer him.
Yeah, well, of course they would, because corrupt people like to get together, don't they?
Yeah, we like Boris because he comes here and gives us money. That's basically what it is. Because Liz Truss, in her 60-odd days in government, did not come and, or was it 44 days? I'm not sure, but she did not go to Ukraine, did she?
She was going to, but I don't think she had the time.
No. Spencer says in the chat, at least we have only 2 prime ministers until Christmas. But yeah, no. Ukraine are interfering, so they shouldn't.
Ukraine need to butt out, because Ukraine are getting ahead of themselves. They've come to the point now that they feel entitled. They're behaving like spoilt kids. You know what? I've never approved of the way that we've gone about this.
Yeah.
I think it's wrong that we have deliberately propped up a corrupt regime that the West installed in the first place. I'm not saying Russia's right, far from it, but there are ways and means of doing these things properly, and this is certainly not one of them. To try and have your proxy war with Russia through Ukraine is nothing but an affront to the normal, decent people of Ukraine and to the normal, decent people of Russia. But this is not the way to do things. And I'm looking at you, United Kingdom, and United States of America. You two are the big ringleaders in forcing.
And you, Ursula von der Leyen.
Yeah, but more than anything, I'm looking at the UK and the USA as the people that are propping up this regime and allowing this proxy war to continue. And it's not going to do anyone any good, and we're not going to get any benefit out of it.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, if you just once again go back to the earlier statements that I have been making, the rants that I've been on during this show, it would tell you that I don't support the governments of Ukraine or Russia. I don't support any government because, once again, if you're that normal person whose house just got blown up, they don't care about you.
And your sanctions have done nothing but help Russia out.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We're looking at the death knell of the petrodollar. We're looking. We are. We're looking at the death knell of the petrodollar.
And we touched on that yesterday.
We did. And could you cue up the goat scream again for the next slide?
The goat scream's ready.
Right, I will give you a countdown in 3, 2, 1. Perfectly timed, my friend. Perfectly timed. What do we have here?
So what we have here is a meme that I just could not resist. Because that chap is he's head of, what is he head of?
Health. Is it the health department?
Secretary of Health or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's the Secretary of Health. And sometimes you see him in a uniform.
Yes, in an army uniform, yes.
Yeah, and that's Uncle Joe. And I just think it says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This one doesn't smell right.
Do you know what? I before we get accused of something, I think we'll move on.
Well, that's us, mate. We're done.
Is that it? Is that the last one?
We're out. Yep, that's the last one.
Look at that. That is the end of the... And it's brought us to 1 minute before the end of showtime, John.
What can I say? I'm just perfect.
And you know what? I think that's been an absolutely fantastic show. I want to thank one and all, and I'm sure John will thank you again in a minute, for joining us, and say to you, just we haven't advertised it at all, but if you would like to support us, then you can do so at patreon.com/Chasing Dissent, or indeed ko-fi-kofi.com/Chasing Dissent. And if you want to do that during a show, then you can put personalised message in your support and it pops up and it's spoken out on the show by a robot voice. A bit late to do that now, but we will be back tonight when you could consider doing that. And if you haven't already...
Someone did it last Friday night.
They did, yeah. And if you haven't already, then don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And whilst I queue up an outro, John, speak to the lovely people.
I'd like to thank you, one and all, for attending this, the Friday edition of Chasing Dissent Live, episode 146, brought to you by your hosts, John and Ben. And we'd like to wish you all a very, very good weekend, and we'll see you on this show again on Monday. But as Ben says, look out for us over the weekend.
Bye for now.
That's all we've got time for this evening, so it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Stop playing with my bust!
Good night, everybody.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy.
You're a what?
A pianist!
Mwah! Good night, everybody.
You have been a delightful audience to talk. Good night. Thank you.
Oh, my bottom hurts. Mwah! Good night, everybody.
Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob.
Oh, I did love that hamster so. I took it into bed with me every night, you know.
Good night, everybody.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think I have to go now. I've been standing here for a very long time. I think the end of the show must have come and gone.
There you go. That's our solar system. You forgot Uranus. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. You've been very nice to work to.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.